All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today during the Lytham Partners Spring 2022 Investor Conference. My name is Robert Blum, Managing Partner at Lytham Partners. During this presentation, we welcome Albireo, ticker symbol of ALBO on the NASDAQ, and their Chief Commercial Officer, Pamela Stephenson. Today, I've asked the company to briefly run through the slide presentation. And before we begin, though, I want to remind everyone that Albireo is available for one-on-one meetings later this week. If you've not already signed up, you can send me an email at Blum, and that's BLUM, as in Mary, at lythampartners.com, or visit our website at lythampartners.com/virtual. Click on the one-on-one meeting request button, and we will look to get you all taken care of. So with that said, let me turn the presentation over to Pamela Stephenson, Chief Commercial Officer of Albireo Pharma. Pamela, please proceed.
Thank you, Robert. Pleasure to meet with you and be here today. Going to go ahead and get started here. Sharing my screen. Good. Can you see that?
Great. All set.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you about Albireo. You are catching us at a historic time in the company's history. We have transformed from a clinical stage company to one with an approved product and are well on our way to building an integrated biopharmaceutical company. So really excited to be here speaking with you today. Through the course of this presentation, I will be making forward-looking statements. So let's get started. Albireo is a company with a tremendous amount of growth potential across three drivers of value. First, the global launch in PEDFIC of Bylvay. Second, the expanded use of Bylvay in Alagille syndrome and biliary atresia in our studies ongoing phase 3 in Alagille syndrome and biliary atresia. And then third, our rapidly emerging early stage assets. We are well positioned with a strong financial foundation and a highly experienced team and innovative science rooted in a deep understanding of bile acid modulation. Now, our scientists have been working in bile acids for decades, and this expertise, along with our ability to execute, has generated a novel compounds with distinct mechanisms of action designed to regulate bile acid movement in specific diseases. Whether we are targeting the ileum and the small intestine, the kidney, or the liver, and depending on the diseases we're able to take, a very unique approach to address the diseases. So this ability to control bile acid flow across multiple organs gives Albireo a significant opportunity to address many serious liver diseases where there is currently a high unmet need with no pharmacological interventions. So let's take a look at the size of the opportunity for some of these diseases. So first, if you start at the center of these circles, our immediate opportunity with Bylvay is in progressive familial intrahepatic cholestasis, or PEDFIC, for which we gained approval and launch in the US and Europe last July, with an estimated prevalence of 15,000 patients living worldwide with PEDFIC. If you add Alagille syndrome with 25,000 patients and biliary atresia with an estimated 45,000 patients worldwide, together with PEDFIC, Alagille, and biliary atresia, that amounts worldwide to about 100,000 patients. And so this is a significant opportunity. And then we look to the adult populations in which we see even larger opportunities for our pipeline programs. And we have adult cholestatic liver diseases such as PBC or PSC, and then even larger viral hepatitis populations such as hepatitis B and hepatitis D. So I wanted to start by taking a closer look at the near-term opportunities with the three pediatric liver diseases that I mentioned. So PEDFIC, Alagille syndrome, and biliary atresia are all devastating diseases that affect children early in the life, and if left untreated, they can progress to liver transplant or death. PEDFIC is a genetic disorder that's typically diagnosed in the first few years of life, where infants experience debilitating cholestatic pruritus. PEDFIC is a progressive disease where the serum bile acids are elevated and the patients experience liver inflammation, fibrosis, and cirrhosis. Almost no patients survive beyond the age of 20 without surgical diversion or liver transplant. Alagille syndrome is also a genetic disease in which patients are diagnosed as infants. These patients also have elevated serum bile acids and experience multiple symptoms, including the cholestatic pruritus that is debilitating and leads to eventual transplant. And finally, biliary atresia, where there is a complete absence of bile ducts with no bile acid flow. Patients are diagnosed very early, under 3 months of age, with significant failure to thrive, and the disease is fatal without the Kasai surgery. Patients experience elevated bile acids post-Kasai, and 50% of patients have a liver transplant in their first 2 years post-Kasai procedure. So the common themes across all of these diseases and the role that cholestatic pruritus and serum bile acids play in these diseases. There's a high unmet need, and until recently, there were no pharmacological approved treatments for these diseases. With our bile acid modulators, we have a robust platform for multiple growth indicators and drivers. So let's start first with Bylvay and PEDFIC. We have launched in the US and in Europe, and we will continue to expand to other geographies. We are also in phase 3 studies for Bylvay and biliary atresia and Alagille, the diseases I just discussed. And with these label expansions, Bylvay has the opportunity to reach $1 billion in net sales in the second half of this decade. In addition, we are rapidly advancing our early assets. A3907 is the world's first ASBT inhibitor in clinical development. In our phase 1 study, we were able to demonstrate excellent systemic exposure and good tolerability. The next key question is if we can replicate systemic effects in humans with disease, and we plan to demonstrate this in the phase 2 study, which we anticipate starting by the end of this year. We also have A2342, which is the world's first and only oral NTCP inhibitor. A2342 is a small molecule and has excellent systemic exposure after oral dosing in preclinical models. Our intent is to advance A2342 into a phase 1 study by the end of the year. And our growth is fueled by multiple catalysts over the next 2 years. We launched Bylvay in the US and Germany last year, and we are actively pursuing pricing and reimbursement across Europe with ongoing discussions in 13 countries, which will drive waves of growth over the coming quarters. Likewise, our clinical programs and pipeline are advancing quickly with multiple milestones over the next 2 years. Let's take a closer look at our launch in PEDFIC and how that's going. Our goal with launching Bylvay is to establish gold standard treatment and support across the patient and healthcare community. Our mission is to distinguish ourselves as a company and differentiate Bylvay across 3 key areas. Our approach to research and development. Our phase 3 programs consist of robust placebo-controlled clinical trials. For example, in PEDFIC, this included long-term clinical treatment benefits of up to 120 weeks across all PEDFIC types. Secondly, our approach to dosing is flexible and tailored towards the patient needs. We have a low therapeutic dose. We have ease of administration with a once daily capsule that is taken with a meal. And we have consistent safety and tolerability. And this is really especially important given that Bylvay is taken on a chronic nature by children. So that safety and tolerability is critical. And third, our approach to working with patients and providers to partner in the fight against these diseases. Our early work in market access has resulted in patients gaining fast access to Bylvay, and our outreach to the patient community, patient advocacy groups around the globe as well as understanding and appreciating the need of caregivers and the role that they play in this disease. We actually have completed our picture study, which is a study that looks at the burden of caregiver on the caregiver of these diseases. And we are a leader in this area in terms of understanding the role of the caregiver. So we believe that this robust gold standard approach really sets us apart. And you can see this in the high quality of our PEDFIC studies. You can see here, Bylvay significantly improved pruritus scores and was shown to improve pruritus within 4 weeks and maintain its effect over 72 weeks. Now keep in mind that a score change of 1 point can be considered clinically meaningful, and patients were able to achieve this and maintain that over time. And patients also experienced improvements in many other key parameters. One that we've listed here is in need helping to fall asleep, which is critically important not only to patients, but also to caregivers. Beyond that, we see the evidence for disease modification through the proven ability for Bylvay to decrease serum bile acid levels and maintain that decrease over the 72-week period of our clinical trials. Natural history data from the largest PEDFIC database called NAPID has shown that decreasing serum bile acids below 100 or reducing them by greater than 70% led to native liver survival of 95% at 15 years. Hence the linkage to disease modification. Another aspect of being able to modify the course of disease is around the height and weight and growth for these children. And here we see improvements with Bylvay in terms of height and weight, both height and weight scores over time. So we're really pleased with those results. Very important for chronic medication for children is the tolerability and safety profile. The profile for Bylvay was consistent across studies, treatment groups, and doses. There were no drug-related serious adverse events. And diarrhea was the most common adverse event. The diarrhea rate in the pooled data set over 72 weeks was 20% in the Bylvay arm versus 10% in placebo. So now let's turn to the launch. We had very strong launch. We're really pleased with where we are. The results are exactly as expected and anticipated and planned. Here we share the results from the full year of 2021, which we reported on our last earnings calls. We finished the year with $7 million in net sales, $5.3 million in the US, and $1.7 million in international. We had 93 new patients, new prescriptions, 93 patients who had been prescribed Bylvay across the globe. And we had 53 patients who had been approved to start Bylvay. So 53 patients by the end of last year who had started Bylvay on reimbursed product. We also track potential rollover patients. And this is the number of patients, patients who are on Bylvay, either in our clinical study or our market access program and early market access program or our managed access programs in other countries. And that's sort of the measure of patients who have the potential to roll over in the future as we gain reimbursement. So really excited to see a high number of patients there. And then the last measure that we share is the number of unique prescribers in the US. And so where we started with 19 unique prescribers, or those are physicians who have prescribed at least one patient on Bylvay, we were able to expand that to 51 unique prescribers by the end of the year. So you can see our team is able to get out there and see multiple prescribers, and we have a lot of depth and breadth in our prescribing community, which bodes well not only for Bylvay and PEDFIC, but also in the future as we go into with these same prescribers as we move into Alagille and Biliary Atresia. So while we have accomplished a lot, we still have a lot more patients to treat. And our significant global market opportunity here, as I mentioned earlier, starts with PEDFIC with the worldwide global prevalence of 15,000, but as it increases as we move to Alagille, where we anticipate there being 25,000 patients across the globe, and biliary atresia with 45,000. So that ladders up to about 100,000 patients with pediatric cholestatic liver disease in the top 25 countries. Our results from our PEDFIC study provide confidence with our ongoing phase 3 studies in Alagille and biliary atresia. And through our studies in PEDFIC, we have demonstrated our ability to lower bile acids. We've identified our effective dose. We have a low treatment-related diarrhea rate, and we have validated our pruritus measurement tool, and which we are using in our ASSERT study for Alagille. So these parameters give us confidence that we will have a significant read-through from PEDFIC to our other phase 3 studies. So speaking of our other phase 3 studies, as we move on to talk a little bit about ASSERT, which is our global phase 3 pivotal trial for Alagille syndrome. So we're looking forward to seeing an important phase 3 readout this year with this study, ASSERT, in Alagille syndrome. It remains on track to report top-line data by the end of this year. And again, ASSERT is a gold standard double-blind randomized placebo-controlled study that both the FDA and the EMA have agreed would be sufficient for approval with a positive outcome. Also on track is our gold standard study for biliary atresia. The study is called the BOLD study, and it's our phase 3 pivotal trial. We know that biliary atresia is the largest pediatric cholestatic liver disease, and we have great potential to be able to deliver another first drug treatment option to this patient group in need. BOLD is a study of 200 patients, and they are randomized to Bylvay or placebo and studied over a 2-year time frame. There are a number of unknowns as we headed into this study. This is the first global phase 3 study in biliary atresia with an IBAT. And this is really a study for patients who are babies who have not yet been born yet, right? Because they need to be captured and entered into the study very shortly after birth. So we've been very proud of our ability to execute and effectively enroll more than 50% of the patients by the end of 2021 and expect to complete enrollment this year. And this would be just reiterating our guidance for a top-line data readout in 2024. So just moving on to our third driver of value, which is our early stage assets for adult liver disease. We have rapidly emerging early assets that are being developed for adult cholestatic liver diseases, such as PSC and PBC, and for adult viral liver diseases, such as hepatitis B and D. These diseases are all very serious, and they have a high unmet need and large patient populations. And the challenge of using, people often ask us, why not use an IBAT inhibitor in these diseases? And the challenge of that, as you can see listed here, is that use of IBAT inhibitor in these diseases has been shown to have higher rates of diarrhea than we've seen in the other diseases. Using our scientific expertise in bioacid modulation, our team has been able to really make advancements with two compounds that I'll go through now. So A3907 is the world's first and only high systemic bioavailability ASBT inhibitor in clinical development. So what does this mean? In our preclinical models, A3907 removed bile acids from the body, not only by way of stools through the intestines, but also in the urine through the kidney. In our phase 1 study, we were able to demonstrate excellent systemic exposure and good tolerability. And so the next key question is if we can replicate systemic effects in humans with disease. And we plan to demonstrate this in the phase 2 study, which we anticipate starting by the end of the year, as I mentioned. We also have 2342, which is the world's first and only oral NTCP inhibitor. And today, a subcutaneous peptide NTCP inhibitor is currently available on the market, but it is one in which you have to inject yourself every day. So we're looking to develop A2342, and it's an oral small molecule and has excellent systemic exposure. So we need to demonstrate similar tolerability and safety profile, and this would allow us to advance A2342 into phase 1. So really excited about these two quickly advancing compounds that we have. And finally, I wanted to speak to the corporate value of Albireo. So we're excited about the launch in the future. And while still early in the launch phase of Bylvay, we're building a foundation of sustained growth of Bylvay with multiple catalysts, and we anticipate building to over $1 billion by the second half of this decade. Importantly, we have unencumbered global rights, meaning we have no royalties or milestone obligations. And as we reported, we have $248 million in cash or cash equivalents by the end of 2021. So this would take us into 2024 based on current projections. We have a very experienced management team with deep experience in biotech and pharma. And we've had such great strength of leadership in the full organization that have spent their careers launching products and growing commercial biopharmaceutical companies. So just in summary, Albireo is a tremendous opportunity by way of our 3 growth drivers. First, with the launch of Bylvay and PEDFIC. Second, with the expansion of Bylvay into other cholestatic liver diseases, and with our, through our 2 additional phase 3 clinical programs. And then the third driver being our early assets in adult liver diseases. So it's exciting to be part of Albireo. We're at a critical transformational time in the company's history. We have a really terrific first-in-class, best-in-class product with Bylvay, and excited to see the plans for future growth.
All right, fantastic. Well, Pamela, thank you so much for your time today. We greatly appreciate it. Again, anyone out there that has not already signed up for a one-on-one meeting, again, you can send me an email, Blum@lythampartners.com, or again, visit the website, lythampartners.com/virtual. Click on the one-on-one meeting request button, and we will get you all taken care of. So we hope you all enjoy the conference here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks.